Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Game Changer Friday. I'm David Villa. I'm here, and it is day 5 of life. Day 5 of...
I almost did it. I almost said, hey, it's the finale of life. No, wait, I can't do that.
Can't do it. Can't do it.
Our bio today says it's the end of life. I couldn't help myself.
We might get a lot of audience watching live on that one if we say, hey, join us as David Villa ends life.
I should have titled the email blast, life is officially over. Oh, man.
I feel like I just dripped coffee, but I did not. Do you ever get that feeling?
Yes, I do it all the time.
I just feel, it's almost like your mind plays tricks on you a little bit.
It's like the same with drinking something. You feel like you're taking a sip of something, like condensation, like you know that there's a drop that hits your pants, but then you look and there's like, no, there isn't.
Nah, it's not.
Oh, it drives me nuts.
So have you guys enjoyed the series on life this week? Looking at the box here, if you've just joined us, you got to go back, go to YouTube. You can search David Villa Game Changer or Game Changer Live, and you can find us on YouTube, and you can search and watch this past week's episodes. I think it'll really be a blessing to you. And the game of life right here, right? We've been talking about this all week, and I think it bears repeating at the beginning of the final episode of this series, that it says, your life, your way. And and you know, that's probably why I lose. It's probably why a lot of times we jack up on these games, because we try, we know it's a game. And how many know that life in actuality is not a game? It's really serious. And sometimes I think that we think just like in a game where we get a do-over, in life we're going to get a do-over. And there's a grace of God. Thank God for his grace. But, you know, Paul reminds us and warns us to not, just because grace abounds, you know, that doesn't give us a license to, you know, just to continue to live life our way. So it's our life, but as a believer, God challenges us in his word to live it his way. And here's the thing. When I've lived it David's way, I've gotten into trouble. When I've done it David's way, I've messed things up. When I've lived it God's way, I've watched life become abundant. And so we started talking yesterday. We shifted gears, and we kind of shifted into the living life, even though you're living or living life in through chaotic seasons and through chaotic times. And if there's ever been a chaotic time, if there's ever been a chaotic season, excuse me, it's been this past couple of years. It's been this current season that we are, you know, kind of coming out of. And so we've had to learn how to live life in the midst of chaos. And so I want to kind of go into the life of Jesus here on day 5, and I want to give you guys a few things. I told you yesterday, if you're listening, that I was going to give you a few things after studying the life of Jesus that will help us live, right, and conquer chaos, not just live, because that's what the abundant life is. When you look at the abundant life, it's not just living life, it's living life abundantly. It's not, you can live life. You can just, you know, muddle through life. You can just coast through life. You can just exist through life, or you can live it abundantly. And I want to live it abundantly, right? And at the same time, you can float through chaos. You can exist in chaos. You can live life in the midst of chaos, or you can conquer chaos. And so I want to talk about some things that Jesus did that show us how we can conquer chaos. And let's look at let me just welcome a couple people. Bobby, good morning. Dumasani, good morning on Facebook. What's up? Minerva Martinez, good morning. Christina, good morning. We have Missouri in the house, and St. Pete, and Bobby. I'm not sure where you're watching from. Dumasani's in South Africa. Thank you guys for joining us, and welcome your comments this morning. You can help me out. And so we're going to get into 3 basic things. Let's look at the number 1 basic thing, right? I think these are pretty basic. These aren't deep, but I think that sometimes we need to be reminded of the basic things, right? The basic things, so that we can realize that we can do it. I mean, because look, if it's so hard and so deep, it's like, you know, I'm out. But if it's simple, and that's what God made the gospel, right? He made it simple. If we follow it, then we see abundant life. And the first thing that, studying the life of Jesus, the first thing I noticed, you know, was the foundational fact of how everything Jesus did, listen to this, flowed from the relationship he had with his Father. And it's a foundational fact. I don't know, it was probably last year at this time, or last year by now, but we did a series on foundations. and we talked about skyscrapers and how, a skyscraper, scrapes the sky, right? It grows, and we actually view them and judge them and are in awe of them based on their height. But there's thousands of feet in the air. They go hundreds of feet into the ground. There's a huge foundation, and so foundation is important. And a foundational fact. This is foundationally how Jesus lived his life, right? In the midst of chaos, everything he did flowed from the relationship he had with the Father. I mean, even if you look at the times where, he could have just, for instance, Lazarus was in the tomb, and, before he just went, Lazarus had come out, he took time to pray out loud. He's like, hey, God, so that these people can see that you're able. I thank you in advance. And so he took time even for those scenarios to interact with the Father. He had a relationship with the Father. There were many times where Jesus withdrew himself and said, hey, I'm thinking of one time where he fed the 5,000, he poured out, right? He was, if you've ever been under, his anointing, you know that it'll drain you physically when it lifts. And so Jesus is there, and he said, guys, why don't you go to the other side? Go ahead and get in the boat. I'm going to go up in this mountain by myself, and I'm going to pray. And he went and prayed, and they went across the water by themselves. So he went and sought God to replenish himself. So a foundational fact in a way that you and I can conquer chaos in this world, right? Because this world has chaos. There's going to be chaos in this world. Is to have everything that we do flow from the relationship, just like Jesus with his Father. Let it flow from the relationship we have with the Father. And so, can I just say this? Just like us, Jesus and the Father God, right? Jesus and his Father shared, right, a yoke as he served. Like they shared in this burden. They shared in this. And so he didn't try to do anything apart from God. And if the Son of God doesn't try to do anything apart from God, then what makes you and I think that we can abundantly live in this chaotic world any differently? Right? That sobers me, right? That, because here's the thing, his strength, Jesus, was not his own. Let that sink in for a second. His strength was not his own. It flowed from the power of God at work through him. And that's actually reminds me of one of my favorite scriptures, Ephesians 3:20. It says, unto him who's able to do exceeding and abundantly above all that you can ask or I can ask, that you can think or that I can think, according to his power that's at work in us. So if Jesus did it not in his own strength, but the strength that flowed from the power of God that worked through him, he was Ephesians 3:20 in action, right? Unto him who's able to do exceeding and abundantly. So if you live this life in chaos and you need a miracle right now, or you need something to transpire, you need something to shift, and you're in a chaotic world that doesn't embrace him, you can't go to the DMV, or you can't go to the courthouse, or you can't go to your bank, or you can't go to places that this world operates in and just walk in and start saying, hey, God's going to do it. And, let me try. You can't go to the hospital and we're doctors. They're going to look at you crazy, right? You could do it. And we do, we pray, but we can't go and try to make them understand, right, that we're in relationship with the Father. And so it's not in our strength. It flows through him. So he can do exceeding and abundantly above all that we can ask or think, above all that what we can imagine. But it's his power that works in us. So that's the first foundational fact. So if you're taking notes, let me break it back down to simple here. Number one, Jesus did everything through his relationship with the Father. Everything he did flowed from the relationship he had with his Father. Amen? That's good, huh? It's hard to do because sometimes we want it done now. And sometimes God's way of doing things is not just now. It's his time. It's the right time. It's the on time, but it's not our time. And so sometimes we just fire aim ready. I know I do. We just get out there and try to do it on our own, and we don't even wait for God. Anybody relate to that?
I can kind of relate to it because I'm normally the one that's dealing with Dave when he does the fire aim ready.
Dave.
Well, that's how you work. That's how you operate. That's
Sure.
the way you've always worked, and it's a bad thing. That's just the way
Yeah.
you have. And I've always like that's part of my job is like working with you when you have a new idea, and that's the way we're going. It's like, all right, now I got to work this out. But I think that it's really I've been doing the reading a year or reading the Bible in a year. And I'm through like halfway through Matthew right now. And I listen to it every morning. And it was really interesting. It's been really interesting listening to it, not reading it, but listening to it as it was spoken and hearing how, as Jesus was teaching everybody, like, I think this morning was when he went back to his hometown and it's when it all boiled down to faith. He went back to his hometown and everybody's like, well, I knew him. I watched him grow up. There's no way he could do this. There's no way he could do any of this. And it was all about the faith that people had in him. And he basically was like, well, you guys don't believe in me. I'm not going to do anything here. And it was kind of funny hearing that Jesus, it wasn't like, he wasn't bitter. It was all about the fact that people didn't have the faith that he could do it because they thought they knew him. And I don't know. This week has been really interesting thinking about like what he did as far as like, I know we're talking about conquering chaos today and like what he did and the three
We're
things.
just talking
that we
about
went.
life.
But it's been really
There's
interesting
nothing
that
you
it's
can
been.
say that's going to be anything other than just probably right on time. So just
I was going to
say
say it's more. This week has always been about perspective for me. What I've taken away from this week has been perspective. Like everybody, we all go through choices day in and day out. We all have choices that we make every minute. We probably make 100 decisions before we actually make it to work every single day. But it's all about the perspective in which you make your decisions. I was in a car accident last Friday, a week ago, and it was a very, very minor thing, very, very minor thing. And I had two ways to look at it. I could be mad, upset that my car is now potentially totaled and that I'm now trying to figure out what I'm going to do as far as money, or I can go, there's something I need to learn in this. There's a reason that I'm going through this. There's a reason, and there's a reason God's putting me through this. What is that reason? I don't know yet. And it's all about the perspective of going, I'm going to follow and trust in what he's doing. And I believe that comes from the relationship with God. You have to trust that he knows what he's doing. There was probably times Jesus was like, wait, you want me to do this? You sure? I'm just going to have faith that you know what you're doing.
Yeah. No. It's life, and the Bible talks about it rains on the just and the unjust, and we live life, we exist in life, we are in a world that is corrupt and is fallen. I mean, let's just face it, we're in a world that is not our home. We're in it, right? But we're not of it. We're not entrenched with it. We are part of the family of God. And you have to understand that, if they rejected Jesus, then don't be surprised that they reject you. And what I mean by that is, this life is difficult. And ever since the fall of Adam and Eve, and, I don't want to get too deep on it, but, there was just a shift. And then, Jesus had to come and bridge that gap. But the reality is we need him to live this life abundantly. I mean, when we get to heaven, it's going to be great, right? But here's the thing. We live here on earth right now. We exist right here on this earth, and we need him. We need him because without him, life is hard. With him, life is abundant. The thing I want to point out, too, about about abundant life, and I think we all know this from living as believers, but I want to point this out. It's the definition of abundant life, is whatever God wants it to be and desires it to be for you. It's not like abundant life means, you're going to be a multi-millionaire, or that you're not, or that you are going to, you're going to have 50 kids, or that you're not, or that you're going to own hundreds of acres, or that you're not. It's really none of that. It's not defined as the world sees growth. It could include that. But, so I would encourage you to seek God and really find out what abundant life looks like for you. And Because the reality is, it's kind of when we went to the discussion a few months ago on rich, that God makes us rich, right? And no sorrow comes with it. What does that mean? And we automatically go to the definition or the thought process of the world, and we have to think differently. And I can say this, that abundant life is a life when you live an abundant life. At the end of that life, you look back and you see the grace of God, you see the goodness of God. Have you ever just, even in the midst of hard times, or even in the midst of struggles or frustrations, frustrations stink. Struggles suck. Let's just face it, we all live in this earth. But if you're ever in the midst of those things, when you're believing God and you're frustrated, have you ever been reminded that God uses something subtle to remind you of the good things? Simple things, but really good things. Like maybe he'll bring up and show you your kids and show you, maybe they have a testimony of something that is in their life. My kids, I've seen this through my children, specifically my wife and I have talked about this, where you're just going through some frustrations, the things that you're focused on. And then all of a sudden something through a testimony that God's doing through them and with them in their own life over here, and all of a sudden you sit there and you go, God, you're so good. Because I remember when I prayed for this. I remember years ago when I was praying for this type of breakthrough or praying for this type of situation. And I think sometimes the enemy clouds us with this world's definition of what our lives should look like and what success should look like. And so God wants us to have a life and have it abundantly. And he has our best interest at heart. That's the thing that I constantly have to remind myself, that he wants us to succeed. Let me look at point 2 here really quick as we move on. Point 1 was everything Jesus did flowed from his relationship with God Almighty. And number 2 kind of goes along with that, but it's even deeper. Jesus, point 2 here, Jesus' life, right, was characterized by an ongoing conversation with God. So how did he live abundantly? Keep in mind, folks, I said this a couple of days ago, that he was all God, but he was also all man. He was God, but also man. And he was so rejected. His lifestyle was so rejected. You could walk down the street and get some dirty looks. He got crucified. He died for his cause. And so I want to point out the fact that he lived in a chaotic period that I'm not really sure I could handle. Right? We think we have it bad, but that period of time, he was murdered. He gave his life, but he was murdered. His life was sought after for what he believed and what he was living. So understand that abundant life and what he did and how he lived that. In point 2, his life was characterized by an ongoing conversation with God. So, if you read the Bible, sometimes I'm reading that and I've seen like specific communications spelled out. Other times it was, referred to, right, or implied. Regardless, it was a defining, hallmark of the way Jesus lived. So sometimes it was direct communication with God. And sometimes, you watched it and it was referred to or implied, but his life was characterized by an ongoing conversation with God. So he didn't just have a relationship, but he spoke to, he talked to. There was conversation. There was bouncing off. And so, what do you mean by this, Dave? Tell me, in the simplest things, we need to bounce off God. Like, we don't need to look. This is not a mystical thing, right? I'm not trying to super spiritualize something or get. What I'm trying to tell you is, if you really believe this, and it's not a bunch of mumbo jumbo. And can I just tell you that there come a time when this world passes, right? And then all we have is eternity. All we have is eternity God's way. So can I just say it's not mumbo jumbo? So just moving it back a step. Look at this. If that's the case, and it is, then what is too small? Not just too big. We look at the big things and go like, that's too big for me. It's not too big for God. We don't have a problem like looking at that and using God for that, right? That God's a big problem solver. Well, he's also a small problem solver. Like, I want his direction. I legitimately, like, when you ever, I do this sometimes with Diana, and she doesn't like it, but sometimes I'll ask, because I mean, she's pretty wise, right? She's pretty wise. And so sometimes I'll ask her questions, I might even know the answer, but I'm like, hey, so what do you think about this? What, and it'll be something like, and she's like, David, I mean, just do it. I mean, what are you asking me? Like, in other words, I'm sure she doesn't want to basically be, have the pressure of answering the question and kind of giving direction, but I value her wisdom. And sometimes I ask those questions too much. And so humans get, if you constantly did that to me, I'm going to be like, Mike, man, you've asked me 3 times. You ask me every week. I really want you just to do it.
Right.
I don't want to, because if I need to do it or I need to be part of that decision making, and man, I mean, then I'm doing it. Right. So I say those types of things because it aggravates me or whatever, and nobody wants to do that. Here's the craziest thing. It doesn't aggravate God. Think about this for a second. It doesn't aggravate God. He wants that position in your life. So an ongoing conversation with him would be like, and he's mine, he's yours, he's in our hearts, right? He's in and we could just speak to him quietly. I mean, I could literally like have a conversation with him, and it's not weird. It might be weird if you walk around talking out loud all the time. People might look at you like you're crazy, but you could talk to God in your heart. And so if I need an answer or direction for even, hey, what, how am I going to work today? What's the direction I need to go today? What area do I need to focus on in my sales today? What task do I need to tackle first today? Hey, listen, this to-do list is big. How do I get down this list effectively today? What do I need to cut out of my schedule today? Those are conversations that you could have with God. It doesn't have to be deep. You don't have to get on your knees and speak to him and fast and pray for five hours. But you could literally just ask him and make him part of the conversation. And that's what Jesus did. I want you to understand that's not only not deep, that's real simple. And the reality is that's really, really simple, but it's really effective. My wife just texted in, speaking of, she said, oh, wait, no. Hey, does she want me to read this?
I don't know.
Yeah, does she want me to read this? Because she's texting in like why she does that. So you guys listening, when I said my wife does that, she's texting, well, that's because. Like she couldn't wait. She had texted. Let me read it. I'll read it. I don't care. She said, that's because sometimes you're not asking me for my wisdom. You're asking me over and over to get me to answer the way you want me to answer. Because maybe you don't feel good about a decision, but you're trying to get me to affirm maybe something in your heart God is saying no to. You know what? I knew I shouldn't have said that. I knew I shouldn't have brought that up. But don't do that, David, next time. Stop me next time, guys. Thanks for looking out. No, she's right.
Anytime on a Friday, I see the Game Changer
Ezra's
text
like,
pop off.
I'm thinking of something like really important. I'm looking at it.
I just thought you needed to see it.
No, it's good. It's good.
Not reading it.
Right in the middle of the show. But it's good. It's actually she's right. Go ahead, Mike. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say anytime on a.
And she gave me a bunch of hearts after it, just so you guys know, a bunch of blue hearts. What's a blue heart mean? I don't know blue heart, but
I don't know.
I don't know.
I was going to say, basically all I was going to say is on a Friday, normally when Diana's not here, if I see the Game Changer group text pop off, that means Diana's listening and she's paying attention and she's replying to something Dave said.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's right in line with what the message of the day is, and sometimes it's to respond to something Dave's saying.
Yes. But she's right. She's right. But here, let me break this down for a second. I know we're almost out of time, and I'm going to get to the last point. She said, that's because you're not asking me sometimes for my wisdom. You're asking me over and over to get the answer you want me to answer because maybe you don't feel good about a decision, which is right. I'm insecure about a decision, trying to get me to affirm maybe something in your heart, and maybe it's even something that God's saying no on. And so sometimes she doesn't want to be that person, and sometimes she doesn't need to. Can I just tell you that you have a partner in life, right? If you have a spouse, I have a wife, you have a wife, a husband, whoever you are there, that God put them there for a reason. But can I tell you that they're not God? And can I just say they're not God? So there's sometimes when I don't need to bring those types of things to her. I need to bring them to him. Are you hearing me? And so here's the thing about him. He can handle all. That's where he says, like, my yoke is easy, right? My burden is light. That's what he's there for. And if anybody ever takes the place of God, then that's where he talks about you're putting something in front of him. So Jesus had ongoing conversation. Let me give you point 3 because we're almost out of time here. And I know that this is, I wanted to get more technical today and give you these points because I think it's really been good all week. And hopefully you're enjoying this. But I want to give you these points, even though they're more technical, because I want you to be able to take something away and actually maybe even write something down. And so number 3, this is in Jesus, right? What I saw, he let go, right, of his priorities and committed himself to following God's path. He let go of his priorities and committed himself to following God's path, no matter how difficult, right, or how crazy it seemed. He didn't let the expectations of others dictate his actions or distract him from the purpose of God. And I think what it is here is doing life God's way will allow you to see what is really a priority and what is really not a priority. There's things that we consider priorities that are getting in the way of us living in a life abundantly. They're getting in a way. They're taking too much of our time. They're taking too much of our energy, too much of our focus. They're causing too much frustration, right? They're making life, difficult. And so pulling back, Jesus looked at that and he said, nothing's going to get in the way of my purpose, of the purpose that God's placed me here for. Right? And so he didn't let the expectations of others, right, dictate his actions. And so, can I just throw this out there? We have to learn, let me give you guys a few things here. You can just jot these down really quick. Number 1, let's learn how the Holy Spirit can help guide us in our daily life. That's the thing. So you go, well, how do you talk to Jesus? How do you talk to him? I mean, you listen, the disciples, I'm reading these things. You're talking about these stories, David, and they're talking to him in person. Well, here's the thing. When he left, he looked and he said, hey guys, I'm going, okay, to the Father, but I'm going to send a comforter, the Holy Spirit. And so Jesus was all God and all man, but he was in one geographical area his entire life and ministry. I mean, it was not that big of an area. That's where he actually walked. But when he went back to heaven, he sent the Holy Spirit, which is everywhere at all times. So like while you're sleeping here or wherever you are, on the other side of the world, when someone else is awake, the Holy Spirit is there and he's everywhere. And so you learn how the Holy Spirit can guide you in your daily life. Number 2, discover. And that's just the word I want you to use. Discover. It means you have to look for it. It means you have to pray about it. It means you have to discern it. That means you have to think about it. You have to be willing to listen to the Lord. But discover who God says you are and what you can do. So you have to discover that. Discover those things. There's a God-given purpose in every person for life. And that's how you live the abundant life. You discover God's purpose for your life, because I promise you, his purpose leads to abundant life. Number 3, be prosperous so that you're better able to bless others. You go, I'd love to win the lottery. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about in all things, even as your soul prospers. If you find your purpose and you're happier in life and you start living abundantly and you start living God's way, he'll bless you in all aspects. Our church's the word this year, our pastor launched the word for the year is health. And he's taking and breaking it down every month and over, like spiritually and physically and financially, and mentally, emotionally, relationally. He's breaking down those areas. And so health is important. We did a series a few months ago called Get Fit, and we did a whole couple weeks on that. And so the reality is you be prosperous so that you're better able to bless others. Because if you're prosperous, even as your soul prospers, then you're going to be able to be a blessing to others in all aspects, no matter what that is. Number 4, last one, live a happier and more blessed life. You're like, I'm trying. Well, these things will help you. And an abundant life is what his plan for you is. I've come, he said, to give you life. If you've accepted him, you've got that life. But then he said, and life more abundant. Amen? That's life. We done.
Thank you all for tuning in today. We hope you guys enjoyed this series on life. I have a couple quick things to run down. Next week, make sure that you guys tune in. Number one, come in on Monday. Make sure that you guys are here because we are starting a brand new series, Glass Half Full. So make sure that you guys are here next week. It will be a lot of fun for us. If you guys would like, we have a daily encouragement text that goes out every single morning that you guys can opt into for free. You can text the letters EZGC to 813-522-3356. If you're part of our live audience on Facebook or YouTube, we appreciate you guys always being with us. But if for any odd reason you cannot make it to the live streams, you can always keep up with us in two ways. Number one, go to YouTube and search Game Changer Podcast Live. Hit the subscribe button on our channel and then hit the bell so that you get notified because we upload the replays every single day. We also have the audio version available on every major podcasting platform out there. Whichever one you use, make sure that you go to our feed, search Game Changer Podcast Live, and then you will find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or whichever one your favorite one is. But make sure that you hit the subscribe button on whichever feed that you guys prefer to use the most. If you're listening to this episode or watching this episode on replay, you can always keep up with us and join us live as we record these episodes every single morning, Monday through Friday at 8:30 a.m. EST on Facebook and YouTube. You can always just search Game Changer Podcast Live in either one of those options, Facebook or YouTube, and you will find us on your stream. I cannot talk. I need to finish this wrap up. I need to get out of here. Make sure that you follow us on Instagram. We post short, bite-sized clips of the podcast episodes, phone wallpapers, shareable graphics of quotes and from the show, and much, much more. Game Changer Podcast Live on Instagram. Make sure that you guys follow us. But thank you all for tuning in. We hope you guys enjoy your weekend. We'll see you bright and early Monday morning. And on that note,
We out.